Alright, so chapter 4 is largely, the beginning part is on writing equations. So we're not really going to be graphing much. Probably not at all this week, but and maybe just slightly next week. But so today is writing equations, slope-intercept form. A lot of the equations that we're going to end up writing will end up in slope-intercept form. But here's like a key component to this whole writing equations part. You need a point and you need the slope of the line. Okay, if I have a point and I have a slope, or the slope of a line, I can write the equation of that line. Now, you could have, so you need the slope no matter what. And if the point happens to be the y-intercept, that's the best solution, or the easiest problem. If you have the slope and it's not the y-intercept, then we'll learn that on a different day. So the point, if it is the y-intercept, which it will be today, it's really simple. If it's not the y-intercept, then we have to do a slightly different process. Okay, so literally the first, well, let's review really fast. So remember, the m is the slope, and the b is the y-intercept. So literally at the beginning of the assignment, you'll have a problem where it'll say the slope is 3 and the y-intercept is -5, and so you're just plugging it into the problem. 3 goes where the m is, -5 goes where the b is, and we're done. So it's just reinforcing that the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. Okay. Then we'll have a couple problems where we have a line is already graphed for us. And there will be 2 points on the graph Okay, so the best case scenario, I know the slope and I have the y-intercept. Well, I have the y-intercept, right here, this is the b. It's 2. Okay, so I already know part of my answer, but then I need to figure out the slope. Okay, and so it's just, how do I go from that point to that point? So, well, I go 2 to the right, and then I go 1, 2, 3, I go 4 down. So remember that slope. I feel like the best way to remember is the change in the y direction over the change in the x direction. So if you looked at examples in the book, they use this like slope formula, and that can get confusing depending on like you're plugging in the right information. So change in y over change in x is, I think, is better. So in this problem, the y direction is up and down. So it goes down 4, so we need to put -4, and then it goes to the, and it's to the right too. So the slope is -2. So I plug in -2 for the slope and +2 for the y-intercept. All right. Okay, then we move on to kind of a standard like deal where they give you 2 points to work with. So if I had 2, 7, and 0, -5. So I have a point, and I don't have the slope, so I need to figure out the slope. So again, going back to change in y over change in x. So the y numbers, I go from 7 to -5. Well, it went from positive to negative, so it's going lower, and it actually went down 12. Okay, and then the change in x went from 2 to 0, so it went down 2. So the slope is 6. Okay, so here's another thing. I'm going to put a graph to illustrate something. You don't need to do this on your problem, but so this point right here, the coordinates would be 0, 4, and this right here would be 0, -1, or excuse me, 0, 1. This one would be 0, -2. This one would be 0, -5. So I think you can see this x part being 0 every time. And so if I drew a line through any of those points, that point would be the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So every single y-intercept has a 0 for the x part. So this point right here, because it has a 0 for the x point part of the coordinate, is a y-intercept. Okay, a y-intercept will have the coordinate of 0 and then some number. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. It'll be a y-intercept. So in this problem, the slope is 6 and the y-intercept is -5. Okay, so yeah, I got to find the slope, but then I know the y-intercept and I plug it in. If I didn't know the y-intercept, it's a longer process to get the answer. So it's a huge advantage to have a 0, something, because that's a y-intercept. Okay, like right here, the y-intercept is going to look like 0, some number. All right. Okay. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. All right. So you'll have some that'll be in function notation. It may look complicated or difficult, but really all we're going to do is write it as a coordinate. So this says, like, when I plug in 4 for x is 4, I get -3, that'd be the y part. When I plug in 0, I get -2. Okay, so do our slope, change in y, change in x. So from -3 to -2, it goes up 1, positive. From 4 to 0, it goes down 4. So our slope is -1/4. And then this is a y-intercept because the x part of the coordinate is a 0. So -1/4 for the slope, -2 for the y-intercept. Okay, so those are it's really, I guess, it's 3 types of problems, but there's technically, I guess, 4 if you include the function notation, but it's really just rewrite it as a coordinate and it's the same. So there's some that they give you the slope and the y-intercept, plug it in. There's a couple graphs where you'll find the slope on the graph and then use the y-intercept. And then the rest of them are coordinates, and you'll do them like the last couple that we just did. Okay, so writing equations, slope, intercept. The big thing to remember, you need a point and you need slope. So whenever the directions say write an equation of a line, you should go to, okay, I need to know the slope and I need to have a point. And sometimes they'll give you 2 points, and that usually means you're going to have to find the slope, and then hopefully one of them will be the y-intercept. On all the problems today, one of them will be the y-intercept. It's the one where